All right, do your song.
I don't have it in me today.
That was freaking awesome, dude. I put you on the
Sorry.
spot. Okay. Anyway, it reminds me of Wayne's World. All right, guys.
Yeah. Just
The
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby Doo could be the giant question of the day, and what we're going to get to eventually is Trump is your next president. Trump is 47. What does that mean for the real estate market? Because that's the reason people tune into the show, right? For real estate talk. That's what we're doing. Guys, Chris Peshek. I'm a real estate broker with Peshek Properties in Dripping Springs, Texas. That's Steve Babcock. He is a real estate mortgage lender in Lago Vista, Texas. Those are both suburbs of Austin, Texas. And on this show, we talk real estate, which we're going to. We're going to jump into a CNBC article here in a little bit. A lot of times we talk about our families, which we're going to do a little bit of that too. And it's after 5 o'clock, and this is after hours real estate. So we have adult beverages sometimes. Sometimes, my friend, what are you drinking?
Well, if we're on par with what you've been drinking, I needed to drink for two. So I brought an extra large Miller Lite this time.
That a boy. And it is a fine Pilsner.
It is. It is.
It is a fine Pilsner.
So with my camera, a fine Pilsner.
Fine Pilsner. My friend, the cold front just blew in, and it is hard for me to turn down a nice glass of whiskey when there's a cold front
You
blowing.
know what? There's something to be said about that, especially as you get older. For whatever reason, whiskey's a lot easier than beer these days.
And my friend, it is officially Hate Week. It's been 13 years since Hate Week. Hate Week is upon us. So there we go. The rivalry is back. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you hadn't been in Texas long enough. My Aggies play that Orange School in Austin. It's on. So
it's on.
It's on. That's all I'm going to say. Guys, this show always goes a lot better if y'all ask questions and interact in the comments. So please do that. Unless you're going to talk crap about the Orange School. No, you can talk crap about the Orange School in Austin. Just don't talk crap about my school. I'll kick you off. No, I don't really know if I can do that. I don't know how to do that. So before we get into the CNBC article, our buddy Steve here bought a new RV. And they just took a family cruise. And I'm going to set it up for you. I'm going to set it up. This man shopped and shopped and shopped and spent a lot of money inspecting RVs that he didn't buy. But this RV is special because Steve has got a kiddo that needs a little extra attention. And this is a driving RV. And the kids, you can strap them in the back and like tie them down with ropes and stuff. So
yeah.
Tell us about the RV trip, man.
That was the perk we were looking for. It was one of those straps. No.
Right. Like Hannibal Lecter.
So yeah, with the muzzle, yes. No, we've got a special needs kiddo that has meltdowns every now and then, to put it bluntly. And whenever we would have road trips, the road trip would stop when that happened, and we would have to pull over and see how we could solve the problem. Sometimes it was a true emergency for him. Other times it was, it's just emotions. A lot of it was due to being in enclosed spaces, which we didn't quite understand until we got him onto an airplane, and he tried to bite people next to him, and he bit through the seat. He bit his mother's finger so bad that it was still black and blue for almost 3 weeks. We were pretty concerned actually for a while. Anyways, long story short, we are an RV family, and we have been trying to find.
Coach.
Well, correct. Yeah, well, not quite. It's a Class C, so it's the one with the big like bunk over the van looking thing, right? But now I'll tell you, we were driving home in this thing, and Luke started having a meltdown, and I stood up. We were on the highway, right? My wife was driving. I stood up. I got him out of his seat. I checked his diaper. That needed to be changed. So I changed that, set him back down. He was still very upset. I went over to the fridge and pulled out an apple, and his face lit up. And so I gave him the apple, and he was laughing while eating it. I was then afraid that he might choke on the apple, yet it was also a better sound than the screaming and the crying and the tantrum, and the hitting things. And I just looked at my wife and I said, "Do you realize how long it would have taken us to do those two things if we weren't in the motorhome?"
Yep.
To just, I mean, we may have had to go to a gas station that had fruit in it or something. I mean, it would have been an ordeal, and we didn't have to stop the motorhome at all. And so we finally feel like maybe we're able to, um, explore the world a little bit and go on a vacation
Yeah.
with the kiddo and survive. So it's fun. It should be
Nice.
fun.
So where did y'all buy it from? Or if you wanna shout them out, if somebody's looking for an RV.
I really do. The thing is, their name is not easy to remember. It's they go by initials. It's like the motor home company, the you know what? I will find out.
There you go for next time.
But I gotta look it up.
That's called the cliffhanger. You got to tune in next time to find out because you said they've even got a campground in the back. Like you can do a shake. That's what y'all did. Y'all did like a shakedown tour, and if anything screwed up, they fix it.
And this is our third motorhome, and this experience was unlike any other we've ever had. Gosh, it's a blue and white billboard, and it's three
It's
words.
right off of 35, right? Up in like Fort Worth.
Yeah. Say again.
It's up like in Fort Worth.
It is. Yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
It's massive, right off the interstate. Yeah.
Like the motorhome something and the TMC or maybe TMC.
The motorhome company. That would make sense. It's really hard to remember though.
Yeah, why do with three initials? I don't know. Like Funtown RV is stupid, but I can't not remember it. You know what I mean? Like Funtown or the what's the one like the family fun? No. You know that commercial on the radio?
I don't know.
Our RV outlet mall.
You remember that one? Yeah.
I'm just gonna think about it. Like I can hear the tune, the jingles, right? Anyways.
All right, whatever. Let's get into this article here. I'm gonna ask you a question before we get into the article. My question is this: now that we know where we are with interest rates, we know, who won the election. What do you think is going to move real estate forward and real estate from a single family residential perspective? Like, if you could sit down with Trump and say, hey, do this thing, what would that thing be? Oh, I put you on the spot. Yes.
In other words, if I were president, how would I solve our housing crisis today?
If you want to be president, fine.
But you literally just said basically that, right? I mean,
no, I said you could sit down and talk to the president. But
so I'm an advisor then. So I'm advising the president.
Yeah.
Okay. I would advise the president not to listen to anything I'd have to say, first and foremost, because I am not qualified for that. However, I would try and stop. So I would probably shift all EV funding into 3D printing funding for homes. Right? If I were really going to get the government involved, the truth is they should just get out and be out forever and stop. But if you're really going to push anything, printing a home with a 3D printer would be a very cheap solution if done correctly and on scale. If you could scale it by 10, 20, 30,000 homes, a month kind of thing, you could get it done in a way that could be very cheap. So you could lower the price for homes. You could do some sort of government subsidy to make it available to first-time home buyers at a lower interest rate. And I think that could probably help a lot. But what that would really do, though, would be to lower the prices for everybody else, right? If I throw a bunch more supply, I'm just muddying the water. And quite frankly, I don't think that a lot of people would be happy with that. But I know a lot more people that are not happy with the ability to even buy a home. They feel like it's out of their reach today. And so, these wouldn't be huge homes. They'd be like 1 or 2 bedroom homes, but they'd be great starter homes.
So your solution is technology to lower the price.
I'd either invest in the 3D printing, which I love, or again, what I would do first and foremost is I would say get out of everything, including all help, because I think immediately the prices would drop if that happened. If the government completely got out.
Yeah.
But there's so many protections they offer they can't completely get out, and by completely get out, I mean offering free money now.
Right.
Man, I say all these things and then I can think in my head of devil's advocate arguments against what I'm saying. So I'm going to stick with my original comment, which is I would just not listen to me. I'm not prepared for this one. I'm not sure what I would say. There is no quick solution.
Carolyn, I was actually talking to a guy that builds 3D printed concrete homes, and they are super, super
Yeah.
sturdy.
There's something
Yeah,
like 5 times stronger than an average home that's
yeah,
built with drywall and the you know 2x4s and all that,
yeah,
and a solid concrete base foundation. It's because the walls are thick concrete and typically like a honeycombed way. So there's like a space in between and then another layer of concrete, and
yeah.
they'll even fill that with insulation sometimes or filler dirt and other things like that. It I've read that it would withstand tornadoes. So
Yeah.
in that case, it would almost definitely withstand all hurricanes because tornadoes can
Yeah,
be much
tornadoes are
stronger than
stronger.
hurricanes.
Yeah,
So
hurricanes just have more prolonged wind.
fine, but still, we've got a bunker. Literally, your home is a bunker. The roof might fly off depending on what kind
Yeah,
of material you have up there because they're putting up 10 metal roofs. But the walls should be solid.
mhm.
If you take that to, another magnitude and you decide you're going to make extreme change, you could do another cement second floor.
Yeah,
And then technically your first floor is encapsulated, right? So
yeah,
you can be
exactly.
safe from many disasters. Um, and they're cheap. Some of these homes that they can pour the foundations for like $35,000. At least that was what I was reading 5 years
Yeah,
ago, 4 years
yeah,
ago. But again, if you do it on scale and you get the right minds behind the printing
yeah. That's
technology,
the key. It's doing it on scale. Yep.
uh,
All right, man. Well, let's jump into this article. Sorry, it took us a little bit to get into it, but I wanted to kind of preface it with that. Here we go.
let me preface your article with a closing statement in what I was going to say.
Okay.
Any way I see that you fix the housing crisis, which I'm going to define as young people not being able to buy homes or young couples not being able to buy a home because they're priced out.
What is
Anytime
it?
you try to address that issue, you are going to unpopularly lower prices on homes somehow.
Yeah.
There's almost no way to do it and stay popular. So even if Trump succeeds, we may not like how it looks.
I think the way to do it and remain popular is like you're saying with a different type of technology, because that would create a difference in the value. But I think anytime you're producing something efficient and economical at scale, it will quickly become uneconomical. Like the prices are just going to go up anyway. So anyway, let's jump into it. President-elect Donald Trump wants to address housing affordability. This is a big thing in the election, right? You had Harris saying one thing, him saying another thing. So it's a thing that people are talking about anyway. Now, whether or not they actually wanted to do anything about it, we'll find out. But he wants to address affordability in the U.S. by fomenting the construction of new homes. We're going to open up tracts of federal land for housing construction. Trump said during August 15th news interview, we desperately need housing for people who can't afford what's going on now. As of mid-2023, there's been a housing shortage of 4 million homes in the U.S., according to the National Association of Realtors. It's clear that the prescription for that crisis is more building. Jim Tobin, hey, it's clear that the prescription is for more building, said a guy that builds houses. Imagine that. let's get a soundbite from that guy. I'm going to jump off here real quick. Haven't we been told that there's going to be a massive glut of houses and that prices are going to plummet and that all hell's going to break loose and we're going to lose money value like we did in 2008?
Perhaps, but I also believe last week we were told on an article that we read that we were going to have a massive influx of rentals, not necessarily.
And now all of a sudden in this article, we have a housing shortage of 4 million homes. Something's not adding up here, my friend.
Well, I didn't read all this because it's been tough with the two kids around today.
Yeah.
But I read little bullet points, but it's going to be fun to see what programs the new government administration is going to bring to the table when they have the Doge department cutting programs. I can't imagine them doing many new things.
Isn't that an interesting thing?
Wouldn't it even be funnier, like soap opera funny, if they offered this new program and Doge cut it before it could start? Sorry, I am sorry.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Moving on.
Oh, wrong. Sorry, go ahead.
There's been a small increase in new homes being built this year, but it's still not enough to meet the high demand for housing, leaving a significant gap in the market. where there are not enough homes available for buyers. Single-family housing starts in the U.S. measure of new homes that began construction. A start is a house that started construction, grew to just over 1 million in September, according to census data. That's a 2.7% jump from August. Okay, moderate jump. While building more homes is the simpler answer to address the housing issue in the country, other promises Trump has made could deter affordability efforts, experts say. For instance, Trump has talked about enacting a mass deportation of immigrants in the U.S., but doing so might lead to higher building costs as the construction industry depends on immigrant labor. Senior economist at Lending Tree said.
I hate that attitude so much.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am very sympathetic to the job loss, but you're literally making an argument that an entire industry has to break the law to survive. And if you go back to like the 50s when we didn't have an immigration issue like we do today, at least statistically by the numbers, we didn't have any shortage in that department, like whatsoever, none.
Imagine that.
So I don't know. I think that's actually kind of a racist thing to say, because now you are just assuming that foreigners are I mean, it just bothers me. I don't like it at all. I'm sorry, but I'm going
to get off on that soapbox in a second. I'm going to finish this paragraph.
Yeah, it's CNBC saying it, not you. Sorry, keep going. You're good.
He also claimed that he would pull down mortgage rates back to pre-pandemic era lows, although presidents don't control mortgage rates, experts say. Pause for laughing. Here's how some of Trump's policies could affect the housing market during his administration, according to experts. Okay, so first of all, we know that administrations 100% control mortgage rates. We've seen that shit for the last 4 years at least, and before that. And you can argue with me all you want. If you don't believe me, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so now that we're past that.
The administration has sway on what the Fed does.
Well, okay, what the Fed. You're right. Okay, fair. I was wrong there. Guys, we try not to get really political on this. And Steve even asked me, he's like, dude, do we want to talk about Trump? And I'm like, this is important. Like, he's the president. This is what's going to happen. Let's talk about it. Now, to your point, here's been my thing with this whole thing. Mass deportation of immigrants is going to lead to higher building costs. Here's my issue here. And it's very much along the same lines as your issue. You are okay with paying people less money than what a domestic workforce would pay them just because they are not documented. So you're essentially okay with slave labor so you get cheap shit.
Right. It's a racist way of...
I'm going to throw it out there, man. I'm going to call it out.
Yeah.
That's slave labor. Oh, you're an undocumented immigrant? Will you work for $25 an hour cash?
I think another way of saying it is, why would you do that? My life's not going to be as easy if you do that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Right. And so that's really an unhinged way of thinking.
Completely miss me with this argument, and I'll buy the beer. We can go have this conversation.
But it's even worse than that, though, because then you assume that a certain type of people, now you've just grouped the whole, and he's not Jose or Frank or Steven anymore. He's a Mexican or an immigrant, or, now you're a certain bucket of person. And now you view the whole world as that bucket. Oh, it must be a burger flipper. Right. And then you become racist just by that way of thinking, which is it's an infection. It's a disease. And I'm telling you, it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
I agree, man. That has been my thing the whole time with immigration.
And you must also be okay with those people being living on slave wages to feel that way too.
That's my point. Like there's no way to do anything like this, which is what the U.S. is all about, because you want
you justify it.
You want slave labor.
And then the only way to then stay in that frame of mind is to justify it by saying, well, they wouldn't have any chance anyway, so it's the best they can get. And then again,
it's terrible.
You're doing a disservice to humanity, but by thinking that way.
100%. You and I are 100%, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, it's a libertarian attitude. So before anybody rips us apart in the comments, hey.
Right? That's not conservative. That's jeez. Okay. Woosah.
I love it. Okay. We're getting worked up. Do we have any comments? Nobody even cares. It's fine.
Nobody even cares. Everybody's like, yeah, shut up.
They can talk about mortgages or real estate soon, please.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the first policy. Deregulation could increase affordability. At the end of the first presidency, he signed an executive order creating the Eliminating Regulatory Barriers to Affordable Housing, federal, state, local. Geez. That could be a blueprint going forward. Executive Director of Bipartisan Policy Center, Terwilliger Center. Okay, that's impressive. Bipartisan. During his 24 campaign,
wait. I'm sorry. Go up just a little bit by doing what now? We will eliminate regulations that drive up housing costs. The goal of cutting new home. Wait a minute.
Oh, we hadn't gotten there yet.
I'm so sorry. You know what? You moved it and I couldn't see it. Sorry, I'm screwing things up. Go ahead.
Nope, you're good. Trump called for slashing regulations and permit requirements, which can add onto housing costs for home buyers. Experts say that regulatory costs trickle down to the prices home buyers face. That's the one thing that I would do as president. I would get rid of how long it takes, and you can't do that as a president. I know that's local regulation, but incentivize local governments to actually get permits out the door in an expedient manner. Austin's terrible. Austin is absolutely horrible, and that's one of the reasons it's so expensive to buy houses here. It just is. It's a fact.
Hold on now. So he's saying it's going to cost half to build a new home.
Not half, but if you can knock 20% off, 25% off, because if you're, am I supposed to keep reading?
Am I reading ahead again? God.
Yep. During the 24 campaign, he called for slashing regulations. We just did that. We'll eliminate regulations that drive up housing costs with the goal of cutting the cost of a new home in half. I think that's overstating what he could do, but Trump said in a speech at the Economic Club in Newark on September 5th, about 24% of the cost of a single-family home and about 41% of the cost of a multifamily home are directly attributable to regulatory costs at the local, state, and federal level. If we reduce regulatory burden on home construction or apartment construction, we're going to lower costs for the consumer. That's a fact. That is because, like right now in the city of Austin, if you want to build a new home, it's going to take you probably 6 months to get through permitting. If you're going to build a multifamily home, it might take you 18 months to get through permitting. If you can even cut that in half, the holding costs, the carry costs are so much lower that it would drop the price of housing. It would. So I don't know. Anything to add on that?
Well, Austin is notoriously slow for new builds, so I don't have much to say on what you just said. I agreed.
It's most major metros, and again, at the federal look, I'm a small government person. I don't think that there's a lot you can do at the federal level to change local regulations. If we're talking about incentivizing, I don't know. Can you incentivize a local government to move faster? I don't know.
You can blanket rule things are illegal, but I mean
I don't like that though. Like I don't like the federal government telling local governments you're going to do this.
That's I'm not saying. I'm just saying they could.
They could. You're right. They could. Okay, number 2, impacts on construction workforce. Trump also blamed rising house prices on a surge of illegal immigration during the Biden administration. However, experts say that most undocumented immigrants are not homeowners. Instead, they live in homes owned by U.S. citizens, Channel said. If a mass deportation were to happen, such homes would remain occupied, he added. Yet proposals like mass deportations and tighter border control could impact housing affordability. About a third, or 31% of construction workers in the U.S. were immigrants. I want to jump off on a couple things. First of all, is this illegal immigrants or immigrants? There's a difference. So if they're immigrants, they're not going to be deported, and I wouldn't change things. Just saying.
Verbiage really matters here. It's my same pet peeve where they say educated males and uneducated males, but they never say any other word but white before that for the males, right? They won't talk about uneducated or educated anything else or anyone else. It's intentional misleading language.
No. It is. Now, what did you say last week about the rent issues?
Well, I don't know. What did I say?
Didn't we read last week that rents were going to come down?
Yeah, the prices should be dropping like a rock.
So, and that would be a good thing, right? Overall, that would make things more affordable for people. It could lead to people having to sell their properties if they can't rent them at an amount that would pay their mortgage. So that would make more housing affordable, or available, not affordable, available. But this is saying if we mass deported immigrants, that those houses that they're living in, that they're renting, would remain occupied. I don't know how that works. Like if you're living there and you get deported, it would be unoccupied.
Then maybe they're talking about immigrants that are doing it legally and not doing it illegally.
But then they wouldn't be deported. And if that's who we're talking about, it's not the construction workers that are going to get fired. So it wouldn't raise prices.
Honestly, you know what I feel about mainstream
I know.
articles like this.
I know. I'm just pointing out.
It's but then they're not doing this, and then they're going to be mad, and then I'm going to have to pay more, and it just that's really what it sounds like to me when I read these things.
This is the guy from National Association of Home Builders. Anything that threatens to disrupt the flow of immigrant labor will send shockwaves to the labor market in home construction.
Well, it will.
It's been difficult to recruit native-born workers into the construction industry. According to the Home Builders Survey, construction trades are an unpopular career choice for young American adults. Only 3% showed interest in the field.
Yeah, well, maybe they should pay a fair wage and not slave laborers to people and keep them under slavery, basically.
Freaking bingo! And we've got a population of around 400 million people, I think, in the U.S. Is that accurate? 380, 360?
And then the immediate response is, well, it's going to change the prices, and you like your big house, don't you? You want to sell your, yeah, okay, well, do the right thing. Just do the right thing.
Well, my point is, if 3% showed interest out of 360 or 80 million, that's 9 million. I guess that's not all people. So I guess maybe adults, there's only 150 million. I'm just, and then 3% of that is 4.5 million people that you could get and employ them. I think that would probably be good for the economy. Would housing costs go up? Probably.
Dude, you know what? Just a thought. Very communist thought. Very communist thought. What if every 18-year-old male were forced to do construction for 1 year before they entered the real world?
That is such a communist thought, but I love it.
Don't you think we'd be so far better off? We put handyman out of work in general. Every neighbor would be able to help you with any of your problems, and you'd be able to handle it yourself too.
And then some of them would probably find out that they like it, and that 3% would go up.
They do mandatory service. Maybe we just include this in school, right? In some countries, they do mandatory service. I don't know.
I like it. Look, we used to have the Civilian Conservation Corps, and they built like a bunch of state parks and federal parks and stuff. Now we just put seniors in high school, make them build houses.
Out of all the stuff that's taught these days, I feel like that would be totally worthy of a few classes in school. And there's a few others that I could absolutely replace with that and feel much smarter today in my 40s. Having done that when I was younger. I'm not joking. I mean, like, seriously, remove the language requirement and okay, I'm sorry. Keep going. We're good.
You're good. Number 3, tariffs could hike building costs. Trump proposed a 10 to 20% tariff on all imports across the board, as well as a rate between 60 to 100% on goods from China. Blanket tariff at 10 to 20 on raw building materials like lumber could push housing costs higher, as well as materials for home renovations. Any tariffs that raise the cost of products are going to flow directly to the consumer. That's true. On average, construction costs for single-family homes around $392,000. Okay, so I've got an issue with this. There would be some materials that would get a blanket tariff. The vast majority of our lumber comes from the United States. Just saying. I mean, that's not all that's required to build a house. Shingles are manufactured in the United States. The metal probably comes from China. Yeah, that would go up. All the concrete is here. I don't know. I don't think it would raise prices 10 to 20% just because there's a blanket tariff. There's a lot of this stuff that's produced in the United States. I'm going to call a little bit of BS on that. Would it cause some prices to go up? Yes. Not across the board. Just saying.
Brother, the truth is, economics is such a huge liar, right? And we all, in economics, we tend to think of ourselves as like Less political and more astute than others. We only follow the numbers, after all. How could that be wrong, right? But you ask 9 or 10 economists what's going to happen in 5 years, and you're going to get 9 or 10 different answers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they're all idiots. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're all speculative bums, right? And so, I take this with a grain of salt. This person's just an idiot too, right? Just like me, trying to bumble around, figure out what to tell the president earlier in this show.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So wrapping up, overall, home builders expect to construct about 1.2 million new single-family homes and 300,000 multifamily units over the next year. Okay, that is a quarter of what we need. We're not quite building back up to the pace that we need to, but it'll be higher. It'll be higher than this year. Okay, so that's good. It might be too soon to tell if the Trump administration will prioritize housing costs as much as the Harris administration would have. And the aid Trump has mentioned might not help densely populated areas. Trump mentioned plans to release federal lands for housing, but federal lands tend to concentrate in rural areas. That doesn't do anything for these densely populated blue cities that really need the most help. I don't even want to get into this.
Because you can't do it unpolitically, right? You can't do it.
Well, and it's not only that, but you know what? Okay, in right now, everybody says Austin is unaffordable. No, Austin's not unaffordable. Parts of Austin are unaffordable, but not everybody needs to live downtown. Not everybody needs to live in Dripping Springs. There's housing available in Austin, brand new 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet homes for $220,000. If you don't believe me, call me. I'll get you pre-approved with Steve, and we'll go shopping.
But this is kind of my issue earlier with the 3D printed homes.
Yeah.
Any wealthy neighborhood, or especially resort towns or big cities and things, any places like that have extreme wealth.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking necessarily about Austin. You go to Aspen, for instance.
Oh, yeah, Aspen, yeah.
Have major issues finding workers to man the barista stand, etc.
Right.
Because
to pay more for coffee.
They can't afford to live there. So a lot of them, I know out in Colorado, a lot of them have several condos they've put up where the workers can stay. Right.
Every city out there is giving incentives for people to build workforce housing. It's happening. Hell, Breckenridge outlawed short-term rentals there. I think it's down to only it cut the number of short-term rentals by something like 80 or 85%. Because there wasn't anywhere for the workforce to live. So the government told you that you can't do this with your house because we need people to live here to work here. Talk about communist. Just saying. And here's the thing. I can't afford to live in a high-rise in downtown Austin. I can't afford to live in Westlake. If I could, I wouldn't, but it doesn't change the fact that I can't. Drive till you qualify. Find the closest place you can qualify for your job. And then drive 15 minutes further and save more money.
I totally agree.
Sorry.
That's true.
Let's wrap it on that.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, this is you know what? This was a little bit more edgy than we do most weeks. I apologize. But we kind of knew it was going to be. You called it out. You knew it was going to be. All right.
Anytime you use the T word, man, it's worse than using the R word.
Yeah, or the F word. Free.
Probably more acceptable to say yes. Yeah, it's not a political.
No, not at all. Not at all. Guys, we'll do it again next week. Next Monday. We will not pick a Trump policy to talk about next Monday. Hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving. Be thankful for everything that you've got. Hell, you woke up this morning and you got to watch these two guys on a show. That's winning. Just saying. See y'all next week.